You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. 11. Having toured the underworld, Taizong returns to life. Having presented melons and fruits, Lu Quan marries again. The poem says, 1. 100 years pass by like flowing streams. Like froth and foam a lifetime's work now seems. Yesterday faces had a peach's glow. Today the temples float up flakes of snow. Termites disband, illusion then you'll learn. 2. Cuckoos call 3 gravely for your early return. Secret good works will always life prolong. Virtue's not needy for heaven's care is strong. We now tell you about Taizong, whose soul drifted out of the Tower of 5 Phoenixes. Everything was blurred and indistinct. It seemed to him that a company of imperial guardsmen was inviting him to a hunting party, to which Taizong gladly gave his consent and went off with them. They had journeyed for a long time when suddenly all the men and horses vanished from sight. He was left alone, walking the deserted fields and desolate plains. As he anxiously tried to find his way back, he heard someone from beyond calling in a loud voice, "Great Tang Emperor, come over here. Come over here." Taizong heard this and looked up. He saw that the man had a black gauze cap on his head, rhinoceros horns around his waist. 4. His head's black gauze hat dangled pliant bands. His waist's rhino horns displayed plates of gold. He held an ivory plaque sheathed in hallowed mist. He wore a silk robe circled by holy light. His feet put on a pair of white-soled boots for treading cloud and climbing fog. He grasped by his heart a book of life and death, which determined one's fate. His hair, luxuriant, flew above his ears. His beard fluttered and danced around his jaws. He was once a prime minister of Tang. Now he judged cases to serve Yama King. Taizong walked toward him, and the man, kneeling at the side of the road, said to him, "Your Majesty, please pardon your subject for neglecting to meet you at a greater distance." "Who are you?" asked Taizong, "and for what reason did you come to meet me?" The man said, "Half a month ago, your lowly subject met in the halls of darkness the dragon ghost of the Jing River, who was filing suit against your Majesty for having him executed after promising to save him. So the great King Qingwang of the First Chamber immediately sent demon messengers to arrest you and bring you to trial before the 3 tribunes. Your subject learned of this and therefore came here to receive you. I did not expect to come late today, and I beg you to forgive me." "What is your name?" said Taizong, "and what is your rank?" "When your lowly subject was alive," said that man, "he served on earth before the previous emperor as the district magistrate of Cizhou. Afterwards I was appointed vice president of the Board of Rights. My surname is Cui and my given name is Ju. In the region of darkness I hold a judgeship in the capital of death." Taizong was very glad. He went forward and held out his royal hands to raise the man up, saying, "I am sorry to have inconvenienced you. Wei Zheng, who serves before my throne, has a letter for you. I'm glad that we have a chance to meet here." The judge expressed his gratitude and asked where the letter was. Taizong took it out of his sleeve and handed it over to Cui Ju, who received it, bowing, and then opened it and read. "Your unworthily beloved brother Wei Zheng sends with bowed head this letter to the great judge, my sworn brother the Honorable Mr. Cui. I recall our former goodly society, and both your voice and your countenance seem to be present with me. Several years have hastened by since I last heard your lofty discourse. I could only prepare a few vegetables and fruits to offer to you as sacrifices during the festive times of the year, though I do not know whether you have enjoyed them or not. I am grateful, however, that you have not forgotten me, and that you have revealed to me in my dreams that you, my elder brother, have ascended to an even higher office. Unfortunately, the worlds of light and darkness are separated by a gulf wide as the heavens, so that we cannot meet face to face. The reason that I am writing you now is the sudden demise of my emperor, the accomplished Taizong, whose case, I suppose, will be reviewed by the 3 tribunes so that he will certainly be given the opportunity to meet you. I earnestly beseech you to remember our friendship while you were living and grant me the small favor of allowing His Majesty to return to life. This will be a very great favor to me, for which I thank you once more." After reading the letter, the judge said with great delight, "The execution of the old dragon the other day by the human judge Wei is already known to your subject, who greatly admires him for this deed. I am, moreover, indebted to him for looking after my children. Since he has written such a letter now, your Majesty need have no further concern. Your lowly subject will make certain that you will be returned to life, to ascend once more your throne of jade." Taizong thanked him. As the 2 of them were speaking, they saw in the distance 2 young boys in blue robes holding banners and flags and calling out, "The king of the underworld has an invitation for you." Taizong went forward with Judge Cui and the 2 boys. He suddenly saw a huge city, and on a large plaque above the city gate was the inscription in gold letters, "The region of darkness, the gate of spirits." Waving the banners, the blue robes led Taizong into the city. As they walked along, they saw at the side of the street the emperor's predecessor Li Yuan, his elder brother Jianqing, and his deceased brother Yuanji, who came toward them, shouting, "Here comes Shimin. 5 Here comes Shimin." The brothers clutched at Taizong and began beating him and threatening vengeance. Having no place to dodge, the emperor fell into their clutch, and only when Judge Cui called a blue-faced, hook-tusked demon to drive them away could he escape and continue his journey. They had traveled no more than a few miles when they arrived at a towering edifice with green tiles. This building was truly magnificent. You see, lightly 10,000 folds of colored mists pile high. Dimly 1,000 strands of crimson broom appear. Heads of wild beasts rear up from the eaves aglow. Pairs of lambent roof tiles rise in tiers of 5. Rows of red gold nails bore deeply into doors. Crosswise, slabs of white jade make up the rails. Windows near the lights release morning smoke. The screens, the curtains, flash like fiery bolts. High-rising towers reach to the azure sky. Crisscrossing hallways join the treasure rooms. Fragrance from beast-shaped tripods line royal robes. Scarlet silk lanterns brighten the portal's leaves. On the left, hordes of fierce bullheads stand. On the right, gruesome horse faces line up. Gold placards turn to greet the ghosts of the dead. White silk descends to lead the deceased souls. It bears this name, the Central Gate of Hell. The Darkness Hall of the Princes of Hades. As Taizong was looking at the place, there came from within the tinkling of girdle jade, the mysterious fragrance of divine incense, and 2 pairs of torch candles followed by the 10 kings of the underworld coming down the steps. The 10 kings were, King Qingwang, King of the Beginning River, King of the Song Emperor, King of Avenging Ministers, King Yama, King of Equal Ranks, King of the Tai Mountain, King of City Markets, King of Complete Change, and King of the Turning Wheel. Coming out of the treasure hall of darkness, they bowed to receive Taizong, who, feigning modesty, declined to lead the way. The 10 kings said, "Your Majesty is the emperor of men in the world of light, whereas we are but the kings of spirits in the world of darkness. Such are indeed our appointed stations, so why should you defer to us?" "I'm afraid that I have offended all of you," said Taizong, "so how can I dare to speak of observing the etiquette of ghosts and men of light and darkness?" Only after much protestation did Taizong proceed into the Hall of Darkness. After he had greeted the 10 kings properly, they sat down according to the places assigned to hosts and guests. After a little while, King Qingwang folded his hands in front of him and came forward, saying, "The dragon spirit of the Jing River accuses your Majesty of having him slain after promising to save him." "Why?" "I did promise him that nothing would happen," said Taizong, "when the old dragon appealed to me in my dream at night. He was guilty, you know, and was condemned to be executed by the human judge Wei Zheng. It was to save him that I invited Wei Zheng to play chess with me, not anticipating that Wei Zheng could have performed the execution in his dream. That was indeed a miraculous stratagem devised by the human judge, and, after all, the dragon was also guilty of a mortal offense. I fail to see how I am to blame. When the 10 kings heard these words, they replied, bowing, even before that dragon was born, it was already written on the book of death held by the Star of South Pole that he should be slain by a human judge. We have known this all along, but the dragon lodged his complaint here, and insisted that your majesty be brought down so that his case might be reviewed by the 3 tribunes. We have already sent him on his way to his next incarnation through the wheel of transmigration. We regret, however, that we have caused your majesty the inconvenience of this journey, and we beg your pardon for pressing you to come here. When they had finished speaking, they ordered the judge in charge of the books of life and death to bring out the records quickly so that they could ascertain what the allotted time of the emperor was to be. Judge Cui went at once to his chamber and examined, one by one, the ages preordained for all the kings in the world that were inscribed in the books. Startled when he saw that the great Tang Emperor Taizong of the South Jambudvipa continent was destined to die in the 13th year of the period Jingwan, he quickly dipped his big brush in thick ink and added 2 strokes 6 before presenting the book. The 10 kings took one look and saw that 33 years was written beneath the name Taizong. They asked in alarm, "How long has it been since your majesty was enthroned?" "It has been 13 years, said Taizong. "Your majesty need have no worry," said King Yama, "for you still have 20 years of life. Now that your case has been clearly reviewed, we can send you back to the world of light." When Taizong heard this, he bowed to express his gratitude, as the 10 kings ordered Judge Cui and Grand Marshal Chu to accompany him back to life. Taizong walked out of the Hall of Darkness and asked, saluting the 10 kings once again, "What's going to happen to those living in my palace?" "Everyone will be safe," said the 10 kings, "except your younger sister. It appears that she will not live long." "When I return to the world of light," said Taizong, bowing again to thank them, "I have very little that I can present you as a token of my gratitude. Perhaps I can send you some melons, or other kinds of fruit." Delighted, the 10 kings said, "We have eastern and western melons here, but we lack southern melons." "7 The moment I get back," said Taizong, "I shall send you some." They bowed to each other with hands folded and parted. The marshal took the lead, holding a flag for guiding souls, while Judge Cui followed behind to protect Taizong. They walked out of the region of darkness, and Taizong saw that it was not the same road. He asked the judge, "Are we going on the wrong way?" "No," said the judge, "for this is how it is in the region of darkness. There is a way for you to come, but there is no way out. Now we must send your majesty off from the region of the wheel of transmigration, so that you can make a tour of hell as well as be sent on your way to reincarnation." Taizong had little alternative but to follow their lead. They had gone only a few miles when they came upon a tall mountain. Dark clouds touched the ground around it, and black mists shrouded the sky. "Mr. Cui," said Taizong, "what mountain is this?" The judge said, "It's the mountain of perpetual shade in the region of darkness." "How can we go there?" asked Taizong fearfully. "Your majesty need not worry," said the judge, "for your subjects are here to guide you." Shaking and quaking, Taizong followed the 2 of them and ascended the slope. He raised his head to look around and saw that its shape was both craggy and curved, and its form was even more tortuous. Rugged like the Shu Peaks, 8. Tall like the Lu summits. It was not a famed mountain in the world of light, but a treacherous place in the region of darkness. Thickets of thorns sheltered monsters. Tiers of stone ridges harbored demons. No sound of fowl or beast came to one's ears. Only ghosts or griffins walked before one's eyes. The howling cold wind. The endless black mist. The howling cold wind was the huffing of infernal hosts. The endless black mist was the puffing of demonic troops. There was no scenic splendor though one looked high and low. All was desolation when one stared left and right. At that place there were mountains, and peaks, and summits, and caves, and streams. Only no grass grew on the mountains. No peaks punctured the sky. No travelers scaled the summits. No caves ever harbored the clouds. No water flowed in the streams. They were all specters on the shores, and bogies beneath the cliffs. The phantoms huddled in the caves, and lost souls hid on stream floors. All around the mountain, bull heads and horse faces wildly clamored, half hidden and half in sight. Hungry ghosts and needy souls often wept. The judge in quest of souls, in haste and fury delivered his summons. The guard who chased the spirits snorted and shouted to present his papers. The swift of foot, a boiling cyclone. The soul snatcher, a spreading dark mist. Had he not trusted in the judge's protection, Taizong would have never made it across this mountain of perpetual shade. As they proceeded, they came to a place where there were many halls and chambers. Everywhere they turned, melancholy cries blasted their ears and grotesque sights struck terror in their hearts. "What is this place?" asked Taizong again. "The 18-fold hell behind the mountain of perpetual shade," said the judge. "What is that?" said Taizong. The judge replied, "Listen to what I have to say. The hell of the rack. The hell of gloomy guilt. The hell of the fiery pit. All such sorrow, all such desolation, are caused by 1,000 sins committed in the life before. They all come to suffer after they die. The hell of Hades. The hell of tongue pulling. The hell of skin shredding. All those weeping and wailing. All those pining and mourning. Await the traitors, the rebels, and the heaven baiters. He of Buddha mouth and serpent heart will end up here. The hell of grinding. The hell of pounding. The hell of crushing. With frayed skin and torn flesh. Gaping mouths and grinding teeth. These are they who cheat and lie to work injustice. Who fawn and flatter to deceive. The hell of ice. The hell of mutilation. The hell of evisceration. With grimy face and matted hair. Knitted brow and doleful look. These are they who fleece the simple with weights unjust, and so bring ruin upon themselves. The hell of boiling oil. The hell of grim darkness. The hell of the sword mountain. They shake and quake. They sorrow and pine. For oppressing the righteous by violence and fraud. They now must cower in their lonely pain. The hell of the pool of blood. The hell of the Vici. 9. The hell of scales and weights. All the skins peeled and bones exposed. The limbs cut and the tendons severed. Are caused by murder stemming from greed. The taking of life of both humans and beasts. Their fall has no reversal in 1,000 years. Eternal perdition without release. Each is firmly bound and tightly tied. Shackled by both ropes and cords. The slightest move brings on the red hair demons. The black face demons. With long spears and sharp swords. The bullhead demons. The horse-face demons. With iron spikes and bronze gavels. They strike till faces contort and blood flows down. But cries to earth and heaven find no response. So it is that man ought not his own conscience betray. For gods have knowledge, who could get away? Thus vice and virtue will at last be paid. It differs only in coming soon or late. When Taizong heard these words, he was terror-stricken. They went on for a little while and came upon a group of demon soldiers, each holding banners and flags and kneeling beside the road. "The guards of the bridges have come to receive you," they said. The judge ordered them to make way and proceeded to lead Taizong across a golden bridge. Looking to one side, Taizong saw another silver bridge, on which there were several travelers who seemed to be persons of principle and rectitude, justice and honesty. They too were led by banners and flags. On the other side was another bridge, with icy wind churning around it, and bloody waves seething below. The continuous sound of weeping and wailing could be heard. "What is the name of that bridge?" asked Taizong. "Your Majesty," said the judge, "it is the No-Option Bridge. When you reach the world of light, you must have this recorded for posterity. For below the bridge there is nothing but a vast body of surging water. A straight and treacherous path. Like bales of raw silk flowing down the long river. Or the pit of fire floating up to earth. This cold air, oppressive, this bone-piercing chill. This foul stench both irksome and nauseous. The waves roll and swirl. No boat comes or goes to ferry men across. With naked feet and tangled hair. Those moving here and there are all damned spirits. The bridge is a few miles long, but only 3 spans wide. Its height measures 100 feet. Below 1,000 fathoms deep. On top are no railways for hands to hold. Beneath you have man-seizing savage fiends, who, bound by cangs and locks, fight to flee No Option's parlous path. Look at those ferocious guardians beside the bridge. And those damned souls in the river, how truly wretched. On branches and twigs, clothes of green, red, yellow, and purple silk hang. Below the precipice, strumpets crouch for having abused their own in-laws. Iron dogs and brass serpents will strive to feed on them. Their fall's eternal, there is no way out. The poem says, ghosts are heard wailing, demons often cry, as waves of blood rise 10,000 feet high. Horse faces and bull heads by countless scores. This No-Option Bridge grimly fortify. While Taizong and his guides were speaking, the several guardians of the bridge went back to their station. Terrified by his vision, Taizong could only nod his head in silent horror. He followed the judge and the grand marshal across the malicious water of the No-Option River and the bitter realm of the Bloody Bull. Soon they arrived at the city of the dead, where clamoring voices were heard proclaiming distinctly, "Li Shimin has come! Li Shimin has come!" When Taizong heard all this shouting, his heart shook and his gall quivered. Then he saw a throng of spirits, some with backs broken by the rack, some with severed limbs, and some headless, who barred his way and shouted together, "Give us back our lives! Give us back our lives!" In terror Taizong tried desperately to flee and hide, at the same time crying, "Mr. Chui, save me! Mr. Chui, save me!" "Your Majesty," said the judge, "these are the spirits of various princes, and their underlings, of brigands and robbers from sundry places. Through works of injustice, both theirs and others, they perished and are now cut off from salvation, because there is none to receive them or care for them. Since they have no money or belongings, they are ghosts abandoned to hunger and cold. Only if your Majesty can give them some money, will I be able to offer you deliverance." "I came here," said Taizong, "with empty hands. Where can I get money?" "Your Majesty," said the judge, "there is in the world of the living a man who has deposited great sums of gold and silver in our region of darkness. You can use your name for a loan, and your lowly judge will serve as your voucher. We shall borrow a roomful of money from him and distribute it among the hungry ghosts. You will then be able to get past them." "Who is this man?" asked Taizong. "He's a man from the Kaifeng district in Henan province," said the judge. "His given name is Liang and his surname is Xiang. He has 13 rooms of gold and silver down here. If your Majesty borrows from him, you can repay him when you return to the world of light." Highly pleased and more than willing to use his name for the loan, Taizong at once signed a note for the judge. He borrowed a roomful of gold and silver, and the Grand Marshal was asked to distribute the money among the ghosts. The judge also instructed them, saying, "You may divide up these pieces of silver and gold among yourselves, and use them accordingly." Let the great Tang father pass, for he still has a long time to live. By the solemn word of the 10 kings, I am accompanying him to return to life. When he reaches the world of the living, he has been instructed to hold a grand mass of land and water for your salvation. 10 So don't start any more trouble. When the ghosts heard these words and received the silver and gold, they obeyed and turned back. The judge ordered the grand marshal to wave the flag for guiding souls, and led Taizong out of the city of the dead. They set out again on a broad and level path, leaving quickly with light, airy steps. They traveled for a long time and arrived at the junction of the sixfold path of transmigration. They saw some people who rode the clouds wearing embroidered capes, and some with Taoist amulets of gold fish dangling from their waists. There were in fact monks, nuns, Taoists, and secular persons, and all varieties of beasts and fowls, ghosts and spirits. In an unending stream they all ran beneath the wheel of transmigration to enter each into a predestined path. What is the meaning of this? Asked the Tang Emperor. Your Majesty, said the judge, as your mind is enlightened to perceive the pervasive immanence of the Buddha nature in all things, you must remember this and proclaim it in the world of the living. This is called the sixfold path of transmigration. Those who perform good works will ascend to the way of the immortals. Those who remain patriotic to the end will advance to the way of nobility. Those who practice filial piety will be born again into the way of blessing. Those who are just and honest will enter once more into the way of humans. Those who cherish virtue will proceed to the way of riches. Those who are vicious and violent will fall back into the way of demons. When the Tang Emperor heard this, he nodded his head and sighed, saying, Ah, how truly good is goodness! To do good will never bring illness. In a good heart always abide. On a good way your door fling wide. Let no evil thoughts arise. And all mischief you must despise. Don't say there's no retribution. For gods have their disposition. The judge accompanied the Tang Emperor up to the very entrance to the way of nobility, before he prostrated himself, and called out, Your Majesty, this is where you must proceed, and here your humble judge will take leave of you. I am asking Grand Marshal Zhu to accompany you a little further. The Tang Emperor thanked him, saying, I'm sorry, sir, that you have had to travel such great distance on my account. When your Majesty returns to the world of light, said the judge, be very certain that you celebrate the grand mass of land and water so that those wretched, homeless souls may be delivered. Please do not forget. Only if there is no murmuring for vengeance in the region of darkness will there be the prosperity of peace in your world of light. If there are any wicked ways in your life, you must change them one by one, and you must teach your subjects far and wide to do good. You may be assured then that your empire will be firmly established, and that your fame will go down to posterity. The Tang Emperor promised to grant each one of the judge's requests. Having parted from Judge Cui, he followed Grand Marshal Zhu and entered the gate. The Grand Marshal saw inside a black-maned bay horse complete with rein and saddle. Lending the Emperor assistance from left and right, he quickly helped him mount it. The horse shot forward like an arrow, and soon they reached the bank of the Wei River, where a pair of golden carps could be seen frolicking on top of the waves. Pleased by what he saw, the Tang Emperor reined in his horse and stopped to watch. Your Majesty, said the Grand Marshal, let's hurry and get you back into your city while there is still time. But the Emperor persisted in his indulgence and refused to go forward. The Grand Marshal grabbed one of his legs and shouted, You still won't move? What are you waiting for? With a loud splash, he was pushed off his horse into the Wei River, and thus he left the region of darkness and returned to the world of light. We shall now tell you about those who served before the throne in the Tang dynasty. Sumogong, Qin Shubao, Hu Jingde, Duan Jixian, Ma Sanbao, Cheng Yaojin, Gao Shilian, Li Shiji, Feng Xianling, Du Ruhui, Xiao Yu, Fu Yi, Zhang Daoyuan, Zhang Xing, and Wang Ge constituted the two groups of civil and military officials. They gathered with the crown prince of the Eastern Palace, the queen, the ladies of the court, and the chief steward in the Hall of the White Tiger for the imperial mourning. At the same time, they discussed issuing the obituary proclamation for the whole empire and crowning the prince as emperor. From one side of the hall, Wei Jing stepped forward and said, all of you, please refrain from doing anything hasty. If you alarm the various districts and cities, you may bring about something undesirable and unexpected. Let's wait here for another day, for our Lord will surely come back to life." "What nonsense you are talking, Prime Minister Wei," said Su Jingzong, coming from below, for the ancient proverb says, "Just as spilled water cannot be retrieved, so a dead man can never return. Why do you mouth such empty words to vex our minds? What reason do you have for this?" "To tell you the truth, Mr. Su," said Wei Zheng, "I have been instructed since my youth in the arts of immortality. My calculations are most accurate, and I promise you that His Majesty will not die." As they were talking, they suddenly heard a loud voice crying in the coffin, "You've drowned me. You've drowned me." It so startled the civil and military officials, and so terrified the Queen and the ladies, that every one of them had a face brown as autumnal mulberry leaves, a body limp as the willow of early spring. The legs of the crown prince buckled. He could not hold the morning staff to finish his rites. The soul of the steward left him. He could not wear the mourning cap to show his grief. The matrons collapsed. The ladies pitched sideways. The matrons collapsed. Like weak hibiscus blasted by savage wind. The ladies pitched sideways. Like lilies overwhelmed by sudden rain. The petrified lords, their bones and tendons feeble, trembled and shook, all dumb and awestruck. The whole White Tiger Hall was like a bridge with broken beams. The funeral stage resembled a temple wrecked. Every person attending the court ran away, and no one dared approach the coffin. Only the upright Sumo Gong, the rational Prime Minister Wei, the courageous Qin Qiong, and the impulsive Jingda came forward and took hold of the coffin. "Your Majesty," they cried, "if there's something bothering you, tell us about it. Don't play ghost and terrify your relatives." Then, however, Wei Jing said, "He's not playing ghost. His Majesty is coming back to life. Get some tools, quick." They opened the top of the coffin and saw indeed that Taizong was sitting up inside, still shouting, "You've drowned me. Who bailed me out?" Mo Gong and the rest of them went forward to lift him up, saying, "Don't be afraid, Your Majesty, and wake up. Your subjects are here to protect you." Only then did the Tang Emperor open his eyes and say, "How I suffered just now. I barely escaped attack by spiteful demons from the region of darkness, only to encounter death by drowning." "Have no fear, Your Majesty," said the ministers. "What kind of calamity occurred in the water?" "I was riding a horse," the Tang Emperor said, "when we came near the Wei River where two fishes were playing. That deceitful Grand Marshal Zhu pushed me off my horse into the river, and I was almost drowned." "His Majesty is still not entirely free from the influences of the dead," said Wei Zheng. He quickly ordered from the imperial dispensary medicinal broth designed to calm his spirit and fortify his soul. They also prepared some rice gruel, and only after taking such nourishments once or twice did he become his old self again, fully regaining his living senses. A quick calculation revealed that the Tang Emperor had been dead for 3 days and nights, and then returned to life to rule again. We have thus a testimonial poem. From ancient times how oft the world has changed. History is full of kingdoms that rise and fall. Countless were the wonders of Zhou, Han, and Jin. Which could match King Tang's from death to life recall? By then it was dusk, the various ministers withdrew after they had seen the emperor retire. The next day, they took off their mourning garb and changed into their court attire. Everyone had on his red robe and black cap, his purple sash, and gold medal, waiting outside the gate to be summoned to court. We now tell you about Taizong, who, having received the medicine prescribed for calming his spirit and fortifying his soul, and having taken the rice broth several times, was carried into his bedchamber by his attendants. He slept soundly that whole night, and when he arose at dawn, his spirit was fully revived. Look how he was attired. He donned a tall, royal cap. He wore a dark ochre robe. He put on a belt of green jade from Blue Mountain. He trod a pair of empire-building carefree boots. His stunning looks surpassed anyone in court. With power to spare, he resumed his reign. What a great Tang emperor of justice and truth! The majestic Li who rose again from the dead. The Tang emperor went up to the treasure hall of the golden carriage, and gathered together the two groups of civil and military officials, who, after shouting "Long live the emperor" 3 times, stood in attention according to rank and file. Then they heard this loud announcement: "If there is any business, come forth and make your memorial. If there is no business, you are dismissed from court." From the east came the row of civil officials, and from the west came the row of military officials. They all went forward and prostrated themselves before the steps of white jade. "Your Majesty," they said, "may we inquire how you awoke from your slumber, which lasted so long?" "On that day, after we had received the letter from Wu Cheng'en," said Taizong, "we felt that our soul had departed from these halls, having been invited by the imperial guardsmen to join a hunting party. As we were traveling, the men and horses both disappeared, whereupon my father, the former emperor, and my deceased brothers came to hassle us. We would not have been able to escape them had it not been for the arrival of someone in black cap and robe. This man happened to be the Judge Tui Ju, who managed to send my deceased brothers away. We handed Wei Zheng's letter over to him, and as he was reading it, some boys in blue came to lead us with flags and banners to the Hall of Darkness, where we were met by the 10 kings of the underworld. They told us of the Jing River Dragon, who accused us of having him slain after promising to save him. We in turn explained to them what happened, and they assured us that our case had been jointly reviewed by the 3 tribunes. Then they asked for the chronicles of life and death to examine what was to be our allotted age. Judge Tui presented his books, and King Yama, after checking them, said that heaven had assigned us a portion of 33 years. Since we had ruled for only 13 years, we were entitled to 20 more years of living. So Grand Marshal Zhu and Judge Tui were ordered to send us back here. We took leave of the 10 kings and promised to thank them with gifts of melons and other fruits. After our departure from the Hall of Darkness, we encountered in the underworld all those who were treasonous to the state and disloyal to their parents, those who practiced neither virtue nor righteousness, those who squandered the 5 grains, those who cheated openly or in secret, those who indulged in unjust weights and measurements, in sum, the rapists, the thieves, the liars, the hypocrites, the wantons, the deviates, the connivers, and the lawbreakers. They were all suffering from various tortures by grinding, burning, pounding, sawing, frying, boiling, hanging, and skinning. There were tens of thousands of them, and we could not make an end of this ghastly sight. We shall now tell you about Taizong, who proclaimed a general amnesty for the prisoners in the empire. Moreover, he asked for an inventory of those convicted of capital crimes, and the judge from the Board of Justice submitted some 400 names of those awaiting death by beheading or hanging. Taizong granted them 1 year's leave to return to their families, so that they could settle their affairs and put their property in order before going to the marketplace to receive their just deserts. The prisoners all thanked him for such grace before departing. After issuing another edict for the care and welfare of orphans, Taizong also released some 3,000 court maidens and concubines from the palace and married them off to worthy military officers. From that time on, his reign was truly a virtuous one, to which we have a testimonial poem. Great is the virtue of the great Tang ruler. Surpassing sage kings, he makes his people prosper. 500 convicts may now leave the prison. 3,000 maidens find release from the palace. The empire's officials all wish him long life. The ministers at court all give him high praise. Such good heart, once stirred, the heavens should bless, and pass such weal to 17 generations. After releasing the court maidens and convicts, Taizong also issued another proclamation to be posted throughout the empire. The proclamation read: "The cosmos, though vast, is brightly surveyed by the sun and the moon. The world, though immense, approves not villains in heaven or on earth. If your intent is trickery, Even this life will bring retribution. If your giving exceeds receiving, there's blessing not only in the life hereafter. 1,000 clever designs are not as living according to one's duties. 10,000 men of violence cannot compare with one frugal and content. If you're bent on good works and mercy, need you read the sutras with diligence? If you intend to harm others, even the learning of Buddha is vain. From that time on, there was not a single person in the empire who did not practice virtue. Meanwhile, another notice was posted asking for a volunteer to take the melons and other fruits to the region of darkness. At the same time, a roomful of gold and silver from the treasury was sent with the imperial Duke of Khotan, Hu Jingda, to the Kaifeng district of Henan so that the debt to Xiang Liang could be repaid. After the notice had been posted for some days, a worthy came forth to volunteer his life for the mission. He was originally from Zhuanzhou, his surname was Liu and his given name Quan, and he belonged to a family of great wealth. The reason he came forward was that his wife, Li Tsuelian, happened to have given a gold hairpin from her head, by way of alms, to a monk in front of their house. When Lu Quan chided her for her indiscretion in flaunting herself outside their home, Li became so upset that she promptly hanged herself, leaving behind her a pair of young children, who wept piteously day and night. Lu Quan was so filled with remorse by the sight of them, that he was willing to leave life and property to take the melons to hell. He therefore took down the royal notice and came to see the Tang Emperor. The emperor ordered him to go to the lodge of the Golden Pavilion, where a pair of southern melons were put on his head, some money in his sleeve, and some medicine in his mouth. So Lu Quan died by taking poison. His soul, still bearing the fruits on his head, arrived at the gate of spirits. The demon guardian at the door shouted, "Who are you that you dare to come here?" "By the imperial command of the great Tang Emperor Taizong," said Lu Quan, "I came here especially to present melons and other fruits for the enjoyment of the 10 kings of the underworld." The demon guardian received him amiably and led him to the treasure hall of darkness. When he saw King Yama, he presented the melons, saying, "By order of the Tang Emperor, I came from afar to present these melons as a token of thanks for the gracious hospitality of the 10 kings." Highly pleased, King Yama said, that Emperor Taizong is certainly a man of his word. He accepted the melons and proceeded to ask the messenger about his name and his home. "Your humble servant," said Lu Quan, "resided originally in Junzhou. My surname is Liu and my given name is Quan. Because my wife hanged herself, leaving no one to care for our children, I decided to leave home and children and sacrifice my life for the country by helping my emperor to take these melons here as a thank offering." When the 10 kings heard these words, they asked at once for Li, the wife of Lu Quan. She was brought in by the demon guardian, and wife and husband had a reunion before the Hall of Darkness. They conversed about what had happened and also thanked the 10 kings for this meeting. King Yama, moreover, examined the books of life and death, and found that both husband and wife were supposed to live to a ripe old age. He quickly ordered the demon guardian to take them back to life, but the guardian said, "Since Li Tsuelian has been back in the world of darkness for many days, her body no longer exists. To whom should her soul attach herself?" "The emperor's sister, Li Yueying," said King Yama, "is destined to die very soon. Borrow her body right away so that this woman can return to life." The demon guardian obeyed the order, and led Lu Quan and his wife out of the region of darkness to return to life. We do not know how the two of them returned to life. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you.